Everybody knows John Wayne Gacy, Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer. But what about the other guys? The lesser known, that are just as evil. Come along and explore them and learn some hard lessons with me, Brett, and my co-host and beautiful wife, Deanna. Each week, we will be exploring the dark minds of these people, also paranormal, conspiracy theory, and some cryptids. We hope you have as much fun with this as we do.
Hey classmates, this is Deanna.
Hey guys, this is Brett, and welcome back to week 27 of Hard Lessons.
It's almost like you forgot the name.
I did for a second, in full honesty.
That blank look like what?
Like what am I doing here? What are we doing?
I don't even know.
Yeah. I was gonna be like, well, kind of out of sync because it's our first week back home doing an episode after doing last week's at our daughter's down in Central Texas, but that really ended up sounding more like an excuse than anything.
It's okay.
Yeah.
We're just real people living real lives.
Absolutely. Teach, how was your week?
It was exhausting. Going back to work after a week off is just rough.
It's the miserablest.
Trying to get back into the swing of a schedule, and everybody's tired and gripey and stuff like that. I mean, it's just different.
It is. It is. I thought Sunday night going to bed, I thought that, the worst thing about vacation being over is having to turn my alarm clock back on. Until Monday morning when I was getting ready to go to work, and I had to quickly move turning the alarm clock back on down to number 2 because putting on long pants after getting to wear shorts for 10 days was the worst.
So see, now you know how I feel when we have to go back to work in August.
After having all summer
all
off.
summer off in flip-flops, shorts, and tank tops, sleeping all day, staying up all night, and then we're expected to dress professionally.
Maybe you need to teach at a night school.
No. No. Although I am toying with the fact of working at a college and teaching a class.
Really?
I'm not really a teacher, so I don't know what's... I'm having some ADH time in my head a lot.
I understand. I mean, I don't really, because I don't have adult ADHD, but living with somebody that does for the last 22 years, brother.
It can't really be that bad.
It's not that. Sometimes it's like, I'd better hold on to the grass because we're about to fly off somewhere.
Well, I have to admit, years ago, it was pretty bad. Just gnarly.
Before it was recognized.
Yes. And sometimes it's more controlled, but what is going on in my head and the conversations I have are bad. Not bad, but they're just a lot.
Yeah, it's nonstop.
It is nonstop.
Kind of like how I posted on the Hard Lessons Facebook page. It's usually about the time I'm laying down in bed that my brain clicks on and says, hey, does poison have an expiration date? And if so, is it now good for you?
I know, you posted that, didn't you?
That's what I say, like I posted. Maybe I have nighttime ADHD because it's usually about the time I'm laying down and my eyes are closed and my brain's like, no, we're not going to let him sleep.
You 2-hour nap. and your brain is awake, your body is awake, and your first impulse is to log on to Facebook.
Everybody don't need to know our secrets.
Oh, but they do.
So,
Are we ready to get started?
yes.
So excited.
I'm excited about this week's. Before we do jump into it, just one quick little announcement. I am going to start taking over the interesting facts, the more you know, just because I missed doing it. And so, the more you know.
The less you need to file in your brain.
Man, that is like a throwback. Buzz Lightyear.
To infinity and beyond.
His original name
Yes.
was Lunar Larry.
Oh my gosh.
Disney executives decided to change it and name him after Buzz Aldrin.
Nice going. That's so much better. Lunar Larry here.
Could you imagine how different that movie would be?
Now I need to hear it in that voice.
Yeah,
That's hilarious.
absolutely. So that is the more you know.
Oh, I have one thing.
Okay, cool.
Well, no, I'm not really positive.
Okay.
I believe we have 43 or 44 school days left.
That is the smile that is on your face. I knew I've seen it before.
Yes.
Getting near the end.
Getting near the end.
That's awesome, Teach.
Uh-huh.
All right, you ready to get into this?
I am. Class is in session.
All right, Teach. So today is a true crime story.
Sweet. These are my favorite.
And I'm hoping
The gooier, the better.
that you are ready to hear this web I'm about to weave for you.
Oh my gosh. Not with my brain right now. Maybe it's the coffee. Maybe I need to stop drinking coffee.
Well, or slow down. Like 15 cups a day is a little.
Now, what does that mean, cups? Like, is that like 8 ounces? Or is that like 12 ounces? Or I need the definition of what a cup is.
I don't know.
Anyway,
I just
that's a
assume a
side
cup.
track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, a web to weave for you.
Okay.
You're looking at me like you keep saying that. A web to weave. That is because, and I don't know if you've ever heard this story or not, but today we are going to talk about the Denver Spider-Man.
Have we not talked about him before?
Mm-mm.
Where have I've heard this name before? Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
Tom Holland. Okay.
He was from Denver, right?
Hey. Right. No.
So, obviously, this took place in Denver, Colorado.
Denver. No, he was in.
New York City.
No.
Okay.
What's that city in Colorado? Homicide detective.
Homicide detective.
Mm-hmm.
Are you talking about Chris Watts?
No, is he a detective?
Oh. There was a detective in Colorado that killed somebody?
Colorado Springs. No, he was the detective. Colorado Springs, homicide hunter.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, I was thinking he was in Denver, but he's not.
No. So we're going to take a trip to Denver, Colorado in October of 1941.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
All right.
Let's saddle up.
Saddle up. It's going to be a fun ride today, classmates.
Oh, it is.
The address is 3335 West Moncrief Place.
Does it still exist?
It does.
Oh, sweet.
It does. It is in an area in Denver now known as the Highlands.
Is that a good place?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
That's just what the article said. So,
Okay.
yeah. The victim is 73-year-old Philip Peters. He was a retired auditor for the Denver and Rio Grande Railroad.
Oh, he probably had you know, I don't know what the retirement thing was in 41, but it sounds like he would have a good one.
Yes, ma'am. His wife was in the hospital because she had fallen and broken her hip.
Oh my gosh, that's scary.
Nowadays it is. Can you imagine back in the 40s?
Oh my gosh.
So neighbors, they loved Mr. and Mrs. Peters. It was a good time, and everybody was neighborly. And so they all took turns feeding Mr. Peters, looking after him, doing chores for him, giving him rides.
How old was he?
73.
Oh, he's old.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
One evening on October 17th, 1941, Mr. Peters didn't show up for supper to one of the neighbors' house.
Uh-oh.
So they go over and they discovered his bludgeoned body in the bedroom of his home.
Oh my gosh. The poor guy.
Crime scene, cops would later be detected as saying, was reminiscent of a horror movie.
Well, especially in 41. That stuff didn't happen then.
Exactly.
Ooh, that would be something interesting to see.
What's that?
Not to see, but just see the
crime scene photos, or
like the murder averages have risen. That's not really something cool to see, but it'd
be interesting.
Yes, it has escalated.
Yes, ma'am. Police reported that Mr. Peters was smashed in the head several times with a heavy stove shaker. I had no idea what a stove shaker was, so I Googled it and looked them up. Uh-huh. They are cast iron. They have long handles on them. Okay. And like not a shovel. A shovel with slits. So it basically to clear out ash from a stove.
Like a fire burning stove?
Or a cook stove back in the 40s.
They still had,
I guess.
This dude had, or maybe it was a fireplace poker looking.
It very well could have been. But it had a little shovel looking deal on the end of it, and he was beating the head with one of those.
Well, cast iron ain't light to begin with.
It is not.
Dude.
Police were stumped. There was no motive or suspect. Nothing was stolen from the home, so robbery was not a motive. The killer took time to wash his hands and to wipe off the murder instrument, so he could have taken time for a robbery. Was a quote in the Denver Post from Detective Captain James E. Childers. The elderly man had no enemies, so revenge was ruled out. They found fingerprints in the home. However, soon discovered that they belonged to the neighbors that would come in and care for him.
What, was he bedridden? No, because he could walk to the neighbors. Okay.
Belonged to Mr. Peters and to his wife, Mrs. Peters. So
no unknown fingerprints.
Exactly.
Okay.
Scores of detectives were assigned to the case in the beginning. Eventually, they had to start pulling them off because, Denver's a big city, other crimes going on.
Well, yeah.
Another detective was quoted in the newspaper as saying, "The scene was very brutal and showed no mercy. Blood was spattered on the ceiling and in different rooms throughout the house." So for those that aren't sure what blood splatter is when he came down and struck Mr. Peters with the instrument, basically. And he lifts it back up to hit him again, the blood's going to...
Okay, how did it get into other rooms?
They traveled from room to room.
So the man was trying to run for his life.
Yeah. We'll discuss more about that in a little bit.
Cast off splatter.
Mr. Peters, there was signs that Mr. Peters fought back. He had several walking canes, and they found 3 of them broken.
Good for him.
So he did not give up.
That's good. That's good.
Yes, ma'am. All in all, at the autopsy, they discovered that he was struck over 37 times in the head, neck, and shoulder.
That's anger.
9 months go by. No leads, no
And his
suspects.
poor wife in the hospital.
She could, yeah, she didn't. She missed his funeral.
Oh my gosh, poor lady.
Yeah.
Be like, y'all pack me up. I'm not going back there.
Well, she did go back to the house.
Okay.
There were two caretakers that were hired. They rotated 24-hour shifts. So one would stay with her from 7 o'clock one morning till 7 o'clock the next morning when the other caretaker would come on. So, and basically when they were there with Mrs. Peters, it was like they were at home. They could do whatever. She was asleep, they could sleep, use the restroom, shower.
Care.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
They probably had better values and morals than some do today.
I wouldn't trust it nowadays. No, ma'am. In July of 1942, so 8-9 months after the murder of Mr. Peters, one of the caretakers, in a scared and shaking voice, calls the cops.
Okay.
She had previously heard tapping sounds at the house, thought it was maybe squirrels in the attic or a woodpecker outside. But on this evening, she had walked into the kitchen. And on one side of the kitchen, on the opposite side from where she walked in, was a doorway that led to stairs that led upstairs. Okay?
To like an attic.
Not to other bedrooms, which
Oh,
then
okay.
led up to an attic.
Oh, okay. This is a big house.
It was a big house, nice size home. When she walked into the kitchen, she saw that door start to open up.
Oh, heck no.
She saw the leg of a man step out
Nope.
and a hand of a man reach around the other side. So it's the same guy. Reach around the other side of the door to pull it open. This caretaker goes to screaming. The door shuts quickly, and she could hear the man running upstairs.
The freaking man was living there?
Well, maybe.
Those cops. Okay, you better explain it, because I'm getting mad.
Police arrived within minutes, searched the home, where they found nothing.
Nope. Something ain't right.
They went to the upstairs bedrooms. There was nothing messed up. They were all still perfectly kept, like the caretakers kept them. One of the caretakers actually had slept upstairs.
Was there an attic or anything? Did
There-
they check under the beds?
They checked everywhere, allegedly.
Inside the closets?
Inside the closets. There was 2 panels for opening into the attic. Both of them had been sealed shut. Cops tried to open them. They wouldn't budge. They had been sealed.
Okay.
And Mrs. Peters said, yes, my husband did that years ago.
Okay. Okay, what about the windows? Did they check to see if anybody broke into any windows?
No windows were broken. All the curtains were still perfect. The screens was on them.
Now, something. What about the basement? Did they go to the basement?
The house didn't have a basement.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
no, they didn't. Okay.
They didn't. Yeah, they didn't because.
Okay. Nope.
Um,
Where's Ed and Lorraine Warren?
Well, they were about 12 years old at this point in time. Doesn't matter. Get them there. Surprisingly, both caretakers refused to go back to the house. They were like, can't do it. I'm sorry.
No, I wouldn't blame them.
I don't blame them either. So Mrs. Peters had to return to the hospital because there was nobody to take care of her. Plus, also, the cops didn't want her there. At first she was like, "Oh, I'm going to stay in this is my house."
Was she rehabilitating?
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, she wasn't
still
fully
to
able.
the point where she could take care of herself.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So at first she was like, "I'm. This is my house. I'm staying here." And the cops are like, "Ma'am, if something's going on, we don't Maybe a ghost killed your husband. I don't know, but maybe you're.
I was rolling.
Yeah, maybe a ghost is what your caretaker saw the other day. We don't know. But until we get to the bottom of it, we would feel better if you would go back to the hospital and finish your rehabilitation there. And so she finally gave in and said, okay. Okay. Again, Teach's eyes are rolling. So, 2 detectives were assigned to keep watch, listening for sounds or see if they could see anything.
Yeah, like that wouldn't be noticeable. A cop car sitting outside.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, look, the Mrs. Lady is moving out. But yet there's cop cars there. I wonder what's up.
Days passed and nothing.
Of course not.
Detectives were pulled to work on other cases.
Duh.
Then, on July 30th, so just weeks after being called over there for the caretaker seeing the door opening, the leg sticking out, the hand coming around the corner, 2 detectives just happened to be in that area doing follow-up on another case and decide, hey, let's go check out the Peters house. Okay. So they go over there. And as they're searching the first floor, one of the detectives hears what sounds like a door unlocking upstairs. Teach's eyes are wide. So that detective's name is Roy Bloxham. He heads upstairs and opens a closet door in the bedroom. Just as he does, he sees 2 legs coming out of the ceiling, trying to scamper back up into the ceiling.
Okay, so somebody was freaking living up in there because they created this hole. Oh my gosh. When you inspect the closet, are you not supposed to look up?
Well, they had checked all the others, but this had been disguised to make it look like it wasn't even a panel.
Oh, so it was a hidden door. That's how that man did that. Mm-hmm. Now I want you to go up into ours and make sure there's nobody up there.
Yes, ma'am. Well, it's in the garage.
I don't care.
Yes, ma'am. So Detective Bloxham lunges for this strange man and pulls him down to the ground and yells for his captain, who was the other detective that was there with him. You remember the captain detective that I quoted earlier, James Childers?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so less than a year later, and he's now the chief of police of Denver. And he loves being quoted in the newspaper.
Oh.
So this is what the Denver Post reported the day after. He was the strangest looking man I have ever seen. He was tall, over 6 foot, but as thin as a wilted weed. His dirty hair hung low over his ears, and his skin was the ugly, unwashed gray of an overcast day. And that was chief of police. That was the former captain detective.
Ooh, I bet he had an odor.
We'll get there.
Gross, so gross and dirty. Your hands just slide on them.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yes.
I'm sure you've had some of them.
I've had, yeah. I have. There was actually one time, and I wasn't training a new officer, but he had just made it out of training, and so I was supervising the shift we were working that night, and we had a warrant for this man that was always known to run. And so I told this officer, we were down in the south side of town, and folks local to us will know it as Prairie Village. And so we were down there, and I was on one street, and he was on another, and we had another cop on another street. And I told this young rookie officer, do not say anything about the warrant until we get up on him, because he's going to run. And this was July, and it was like 5 o'clock in the evening. I said, and it's way too hot out here for Brett to be running. So do not say anything to him. Okay. So here in a little bit, he gets on the radio, and he says, hey, he's standing out here in the yard about 4 or 5 other guys. I said, okay, be right there. So I get there. The other cop gets there. We get out of the car. This young rookie officer gets out of his car, puffs up his chest, and yells out the guy's name. We got a warrant. I turned and looked at him. Off he went. So here we go. We get him cornered, and I'm climbing up over a fence and coming up over the top of him. And he looks up and he just lays down, puts his hands behind his back, and gives up. So we get him handcuffed, get him cert patted down, and walking him back to our patrol cars. I tell the young rookie officer, I'll transport him to jail. You go on to the police department and start your arrest report. Okay. Then this guy that we had just arrested says, man, I done shit my pants. Watson was going to jump over that fence and land on top of me. And so I looked at him. I was like, are you serious? Yeah. All right, you transport him to jail. I'll go ahead and start your arrest report for you. When you get done, you can finish up. But I was like, I told you not to yell his name and say, we got a warrant. Yes, sir.
I would have made him chase him and do all the stuff.
Yeah, well, you can't leave your brother out there alone, no matter how stupid they are.
Well, my first thought is you ran.
I did.
And you were going to climb over a fence?
I did climb over a fence.
Where is that man at?
He was 20-some-odd years ago. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
A few cheeseburgers back.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Supposed to be like, no, baby, you're good.
Well, you can't climb a fence right now, so I'm just agreeing with you that it's
Soon
been
as
a few cheeseburgers.
We get through recording this, we're going to go out in the backyard, and I'm going to climb that fence.
Okay, I'm going to film it, and I'm going to put it on Facebook.
Might give it a few days before we go and do this, just so folks can hear this episode and hear it, and they can chime in. Where's the video?
Okay. All right. Well, let's get back to it. So this dude grabbed him by the legs, pulling on him. He's hollering for his chief.
Captain,
whatever.
The chief is talking about how he was...
Never seen him because he's gross or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
His shoes and clothes were worn and basically rotted out. He told officers that he had been living up in that attic since the previous September. Okay. So just 1 month before the murder is when he moved in.
Like, how'd you move in?
So who is this guy?
Yeah, and I'm like, if you're living here, why are you still so skinny and gross?
Well, you're going to learn.
Okay, and then, like, why are you clothes like that? You could have probably picked any clothes you want and they wouldn't have noticed.
Probably, but he's had these clothes on since September.
Oh, not the brightest.
Not the brightest.
They probably could walk on their own.
His name is Theodore Coneys.
Okay.
He was born November 10th, 1882.
Holy cowbells.
Yeah, well,
gosh.
This was back in the 40s, so you know.
So he was born when?
1882, and he died on he was born in Illinois, or Illinois. I think it's Illinois. Pretty sure. Either way. And then he died May 16th, 1967.
Well, he lived a while.
He did. The police, seeing the state that he was in and everything, before they start talking to him, they get him a hamburger,
wasn't that sweet of them?
Piece of apple pie, and some coffee. After eating this, Ted confessed.
Well, how could you not?
Right.
Dude, we've seen your house.
The now 59-year-old Ted admitted that he had been keeping one panel. He had fixed it to where when he would climb down, it would be unlocked so he could get back up there. But when he was up there, he had fixed it to where he could lock it.
And stay in place.
And nobody would see him.
This is kind of genius.
There's
a scary show made about this stuff.
You're gonna find out this guy was smart. You're gonna be mad at him about the murder.
Well, yeah.
You're gonna be feeling sorry for him about a comment he makes here in a little bit, And you're going to be like, dude, this guy was a genius. If he could have just worked it out to where he wasn't dumb.
Well, let me have the evidence first, and then I will be the jury.
All right. Ted came to Denver as a young boy from Illinois with his mom after his dad passed away in 1940.
Okay.
So wait, no. Where did I say he was born?
Illinois.
No, when?
Oh, 1882.
Whatever. So in 1940, he wasn't a boy. Anyway, his dad passed away, and him and his mom come to Denver from Illinois.
Okay.
While in Denver, he met Mr. Peters. When he was younger, he met Mr. Peters at this is just the early 1900s of it all, a mandolin and guitar club.
That's pretty cool.
Where Mr. Peters would volunteer his time to the underprivileged youth of the Denver area.
I thought this was really a place where people would sit around and play.
They would sit around and play, but they would also teach the young people.
Oh, okay. I got you. Okay.
Yeah. Several times over the years, the Peters had invited a young Ted to their home. Meals, whatever, would sometimes buy him clothing.
This is just disturbing.
And would kind of look after him. A few years passed, and Ted's mom did also. Passed away. Okay. So Ted became a drifter. Went from town to town, basically either doing odd jobs to survive or just living off of the streets and doing what he could do till he could get to the next town. Okay. In April of 1941, so just 6 months before the murders, Ted returned to Denver. He slept in alleyways and in doorways and would save a dime a day for food. I don't know how much food you could get for a dime in 1941, but he would make sure he would have him a dime so he could get a little something to eat. Okay. As the weather started turning colder in September, Ted remembered the kindness of the Peters and thought, maybe if I pay them a visit, they would help me out again like they did when I was a child, when I was younger. He gets to the Peters' house and sees that Mr. Peters and Mrs. Peters is gone. Mrs. Peters was obviously in the hospital from breaking her hip, but he didn't know it. He just knows that the Peters aren't there. So he just helps himself inside, starts eating some of their food, starts looking around the house, thinking that I'm going to find something valuable. Maybe I can sell it. Maybe I can raise me a little bit of money. Maybe I can find some cash. And that's when he discovered, when he was looking in the closet for anything that he could take, that panel was loose. He looked up there and was like, and this is a quote from him, this looks like a pretty good place to hold up for the winter. So that was his thought, just to be there for the winter, won't be out in the cold. The area that he was staying was only 27 inches high and only 57 inches long. And I meant, because I know you're going to be like, I don't know, I meant to grab the tape measure. So there's 27 inches. So that's how high it was.
Okay.
And
the spot that he lived in?
57 inches long. So that's how long it was.
So basically enough where he could just lay on his stomach or back.
Pretty much. Thank you for your assistance there.
You're welcome.
But
actually he was taller than that, so he had to scrunch.
Oh yeah. But like he said, this looks like a good place to hold up for the winter. Being homeless in Denver, Colorado in the wintertime don't sound that great.
I'm curious why that was there to begin with.
I don't know. I mean, it kind of, right here's a picture of it. And it looks like it was just maybe like at the edge of the house. So maybe it was at one point in time, maybe some extra storage or something.
Okay.
And this is,
The man.
yeah, that's his mugshot.
Okay.
Now I was telling you a while ago about how smart he was, right?
Yeah.
So he had cut into the ceiling, or well, I guess his floor, and pulled up some wires so he could make himself a plug-in.
Okay.
And it didn't say what he used, but he also made himself a makeshift radio that so he could just keep in touch with the outside world.
Okay.
Whenever the house was vacant, when Mr. Peters would leave to go see his wife, he would come downstairs and take just enough food as to not be noticeable or suspicious. So one evening, Ted's like, he's laying up there, he's listening to his radio, and he's like, you know what would cap off this evening? Nice cup of coffee. And Teach is saying, hallelujah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So he goes downstairs. He's like, you know, Mr. Phillips is usually gone to supper about this time, so he sneaks downstairs. He's making him a cup of coffee, and in walks Mr. Phillips. I'm sure some words were said. Ted, and it doesn't say if this was Ted's, if this was Mr. Phillips, but Ted tells the cops that he hit Mr. Phillips. I was doing it. I told you I would.
Yep.
Hit Mr. Peters in the head with a .44 caliber gun with the handle of it, the butt of it. Hit him in the head with it.
Okay. Where do you get the gun?
This one, it doesn't say.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Mr. Peters, of course, grabbed his head and fell back a bit, but then ran to the living room to call the cops. So Ted follows him in there, hits him again. He said, at first, I thought that I had knocked him out. So I was just I knew where he kept his money. I was going to steal some and leave. But then I heard him moving around again. That's when Ted got the stove stoker and hit Mr. Peters in the head until he stopped moving.
Okay.
So, of course, the cops arrest him and charge him with the murder of Philip Peters. Halloween of 1942, so a year after the murder, he goes to trial. And on Halloween, the jury only took 90 minutes to find him guilty.
Well, he confessed.
Exactly. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole. And this is the part I told you will a little bit make you feel bad for Theodore. Now I feel safe. I'm going to have a better home than I have had in years, and I will have food.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, he's going to be okay now. He's got a roof over his head and food. He'd be happy.
Exactly.
I don't understand why he didn't have a job and take care of himself, though. I don't understand.
He just didn't have that mentality.
But yet he was smart.
He was very smart. If somebody could have directed him, you know, maybe if his dad wouldn't have passed away, maybe if his mom knew.
Mr. Peters tried.
He did try. So.
But maybe with his mom passing, it just
more
threw
than
him
he
off.
could.
Yeah,
Yes,
more
ma'am.
than what he could bear.
Yes, ma'am. So, yep, he was imprisoned, spent his entire sentence in the Canyon City, Colorado prison, and passed away in 1967 and is buried there in
I was gonna say,
Canyon
he
City.
didn't have any family.
And for those that go to Colorado a lot, I used to go every summer. Canyon City is like is like Huntsville here in Texas. They have several prisons there in Canyon City. They have a prison museum. That's where their death row is. And I can remember going there as a kid, and we would be going like outside Canyon City to go to some of the like the Royal Gorge and Buckskin Joe's and places like that. And you would see the inmates out there working, and it's pretty cool. Making how was it we used to say in law enforcement? Making small rocks into making little rocks out of small rocks and dust out of the little ones. Just beating them all day long. Yeah. So that is the Spider-Man of Denver.
So he was Spider-Man because he was climbing in the ceiling?
Climbing in the ceilings, climbing down whenever he would scurry down when nobody was home, scurry back up. Yeah, it's just the nickname
that didn't even stop to think, man, dude, how could Party take a bath?
Yeah. Maybe wash my one set of clothes.
You would think.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. And if he would have just stopped and been like, okay, well, they're not here, I'll come back. They probably would have been like, yeah, we'll help you.
Probably would have been happy to help him. Oh, there never was anything said about the Peters having any children or anything, so they probably would have been happy to have helped him. And there's the house. So, you know.
So it's not as big and fancy as what I was thinking.
It looks like it's two put together.
Well, yeah. Okay.
So here's a little better, maybe, well, a little closer shot of it.
Yeah, still don't know which one's which, though.
Right.
That's okay.
So that is the Spider-Man of Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
My bibliography this week, 9news.com. It's one of the TV stations there in Denver. Stranger Than Fiction, The Denver Spider-Man and His Moncrief Place Murder. Okay. Wikipedia.com for Theodore Coneys. And Murderpedia.com, Theodore Coneys. So,
good job.
Thanks, Teach. So what's my grade?
I'll give you an A.
Sweet.
It's pretty interesting, and this plays back into our theme of the podcast, the bringing up unknown people. So there you go.
Yay!
That's awesome.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, so we're going to go ahead and draw for the next episode, but we're not going to have one next week. So this will be for 2 weeks from today. Because next week being Easter, we're going to be out of town to a family reunion that we used to have every year, and we haven't since COVID. And we're finally getting back to it, so we're going to be celebrating with family. And so we will see y'all in 2 weeks. And when we do, we will have a story on...
Maybe. Host Joyce.
Oh, snap. Awesome. All right, well, we will be seeing you guys later. If y'all want to, you can reach out through the Facebook or Instagram page. Both of them you can find at Hard Lessons TCP. You could email us, but we don't have an email set up yet. Nope. So, best way to get in touch with us if you want to is, like I said, through Instagram or Facebook. Y'all have a happy Easter. And for those that are in the Panhandle, just remember it's not Easter yet, so it could snow again still.
That's right. You try not to plant anything, and you don't make any plans until after Easter.
That's right. All right, guys. Y'all be good, and we'll talk to you soon.
Class is dismissed.